Hey everybody, this is Eric from the Shooter's Value. Today we are going to be going over pattern testing with buckshot for home defense use. Again, this is a pattern test day. It is not a penetration test day. It is not a which is better between buckshot, birdshot for home defense, all that kind of stuff. Through my research, I have figured that I want to use buckshot for my house and in my shotgun. So today we have three different sizes of buckshot. We have double-aught buck, we have number 1 buck, and number 4 buck. So we're going to be shooting quite a few of these today to see how they spread out at different distances. Today we're going to be shooting at 5 yards, 9 yards, and 13 yards. We've kind of just figured that I've taken some measurements in my house, and those seem to be decent distances. I know they're kind of a little different compared to what you normally would see, but for my house, I want to get it as accurate as possible. So let me show you what we have in the double buck category. First we have is the Rio Royale low recoil double-aught buckshot. And this is actually currently what I keep in my shotgun. I just haven't actually had a chance to pattern test it yet. Coming in at about 1,200 feet per second, kind of pretty standard with the low recoils and the home defense loads. All of them are right around that 1,200 feet per second range. One thing I do like about this, I do like this white shell here. I think that's really sweet looking. And you can actually see the pellets in it, which I think is cool. Good and bad with this shell is it has high brass. Now a lot of people would say low recoil equals low brass, or target loads are low brass, which is not true. That used to be the case back in the day, but nowadays it is not. As you can clearly see, this is low recoil and it has high brass. So the high brass is nice when it's on the side style. You can actually pull it up very easily, get a good grip on it, and you can continue to pull. But at the same time, it's kind of bad because it sticks up an extra 1/8 of an inch, maybe a 1/4 of an inch higher than I would prefer. Not that big of a deal, but again, I do want to see how it patterns today. Next up, we have some of this S&B buckshot. This is really cheap stuff. You're getting a box of 10 for kind of the standard price of 5. Again, it is 9 pellet double-aught buckshot. There are some reviews out here on it, and people seem to like it. They say it's a dirty shooting load. I couldn't care less if it dirties up my gun. What I want it to do is shoot where I want it to shoot and hit where I want it to hit. So we'll be shooting this. Again, this doesn't say on here the feet per second, but if I remember correctly, it's about 1,200 feet per second. An interesting shot we have is, again, coming in at S&B. It is double-aught buck, but it is 12 pieces. So there are actually 12 pellets in here compared to the standard 9. I've actually read something that people say that this is a 3-inch shell, which it is not. It is still a 2 3/4 inch shell. As you can see with the Rio Royale, I mean, it is just slightly taller, Okay, it is a 2 3/4 inch shell. It is not a 3-inch shell, but it has 12 pellets compared to the standard 9. So I'm really hoping to see if those extra 3 can stay on target, because obviously you'd rather have 12 than 9 if it's going to hit where you want to hit. Next up, one I'm really excited about is, again, the Fiocchi ammo. Again, this is actually really cheap, but I think it's really good quality stuff. You're getting a box of 10 for just about the same price as a lot of these 5. It's nickel plated, which is supposed to help with penetration and flight. It's supposed to keep it nice and tight. These are actually coming in. This is a low recoil round at 1,150 feet per second. It does have a nice kind of, the wad you can actually see sticks up. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it sticks up just about as much as the pellets are. So I'm hoping that will keep it in nice and tight. Again, the reason I'm excited, I love this white shell. I just think it looks badass. I just love the white, and it has a regular size casing on it. It's not high brass, it's not low brass, it's just kind of standard. So I really do like this, so I'm hoping this shoots as well as I want it to. Next up, we have a Federal double-aught buck. It is a low recoil round, so it's coming in at 1,140 feet per second. It's just a standard buckshot from Federal. It is not a home defense load. It's not a high velocity. It's just a regular double-aught buckshot from them. 9 pellets, low recoil. And then last, we couldn't be doing a pattern testing without showing the Federal personal defense with the flight control wad in it. I know there is a lot of reviews on it, but we're going to be shooting it through the gun today to see how well it does. It is, again, a low recoil. It is actually copper plated, which is, again, supposed to help with keep a nice dense pattern and penetration. And it has that flight control wad in it. So we'll see how tight this stays together today. All right, next up we have the number 1 buckshot category. If my research is correct, from what I have found, is that number one buckshot is the smallest buckshot you can go with that still meets the FBI penetration testing. So this is a really popular size, I think, with home defense. A lot of people really like it. It seems like there are quite a few law enforcement agencies that actually shoot number one buckshot because you're getting a few more pellets there, and you're not really missing out with any velocity or anything like that or penetration. So again, we have an SMB buckshot. This is number one. One thing that's very interesting about this round is it's 12 pellets compared to the standard 16, which most number one comes with. I don't know why SMB did this. As you can see with their double-aught buck, the one that has 12, I mean, it's crimped a lot tighter up top compared to this one. So I don't know why. I think there's plenty of room. They could have added another layer to make it that standard 16. Now, maybe they do make it with 16, and I just actually didn't find it, but this is the number one that I did find from them. Again, really cheap. Again, even 12. 12 is better than 9, so if we can get all 12 on target, that's better than having 16 and having 2 or 3 not hit where I want them to hit. So, and then we have a Winchester number one buck. This is just a standard number one buckshot load, nothing special about it. It is a 16 pellet, 1,250 feet per second. One thing that is kind of cool about this is it has that buffered shot in it. What that's supposed to do is it's supposed to keep the pellets together during flight. It's like these little plastic rubbery granules in there that is supposed to keep it nice and tight. So we'll see how well this does today. It is just kind of a standard brass size. Nothing super special with this. And then again, we just have a Remington number one buckshot coming in at 1,250 feet per second. Again, nothing super special. It's just number one buck, regular shot in there. It does have a high brass, which again I don't really care for. And then we're going into the number four buck category. This is one I'm actually really excited about as far as like the whole category with the size of buckshot. A lot of people really like the number four buck. I've read a lot of articles that said law enforcement used to use number four buck. But they didn't like it as far as penetration and distance. They were able to stay on target with it. But for home defense, I think the number four buck might be the way to go, depending on how it patterns today. Again, I don't want a bunch of flying pellets that are not hitting where I want them to hit. But if they all hit, I will be using number four buckshot in my home defense shotgun if they're all staying on target. So again, SMB buckshot. Again, they made it pretty standard with that 27. Again, nothing super special with these 27 little pellets in there. And if I do remember correctly, number four buckshot is .23 caliber. So, I mean, if you can imagine getting hit with 27 little 22 rifle shells, I mean, it is not going to be a pleasant thing to have happen. So, SMB number four buckshot. One I am the most excited about is again the Fiocchi ammo. This is nickel plated. It is not actually a low recoil round. This is the fastest velocity we are shooting today. It's 1,325 feet per second. Again, nickel plated. It has 27, pretty standard. It does have that wad in there that comes up nice and high, so I'm hoping that keeps them together. It has that white shell, which again I just love. And it has a standard brass size, not low, not high. So I'm really, really, really excited about this round. I really want this to be the one that hits where I want it to do. And this would definitely be the round that I keep in my home defense shotgun if it patterns correctly, which I really, really want it to. So I'm hoping it doesn't let me down. Again, you're getting 10 rounds for kind of a normal price. You get 5, so it's fairly inexpensive, which I do like. And it seems to get pretty good reviews out there. And also one that I'm pretty excited about as well is again a Federal Personal Defense number 4 buckshot. This is not a flight control wad buckshot. It's just a standard personal defense load. It is a low recoil. It is copper plated, so they're supposed to be nice and tight. One thing I do like about it is it actually has, if you can see there, 34 pellets compared to the standard 27. So we're getting 34 rounds or little pellets coming out in it. Coming in 1,100 feet per second, copper plated. I mean, this stuff, I'm really excited. Again, we'll see how it patterns, but 34 is definitely better than 27. So, yeah, that's it for that. All right, guys, that's all the rounds. So we have, I think, 13 different rounds we're going to be shooting today out there. Again, we're going to be shooting at 5 yards, at 9 yards, and 13 yards today. So let's go out and get it. All right, everybody, we're out at the range now. So today we're going to be shooting all these shells out of a Remington 870. It does have an 18.5-inch barrel on it. The barrel is actually made by Mossberg. It is a cylinder bore Mossberg barrel made for the 870. So if you're watching this, trying to compare it, I would actually say if you have a Mossberg 500 or something along those lines, you'll probably get more similar results that way since it's a Mossberg barrel. But it is a Remington 870 is the gun we're going to be shooting out of. So we have our distances out at 5 yards, 9 yards, and 13 yards. So we'll go ahead and get some shooting going. Alright guys, we're back from the range now, so we're going to go over the double-aught buck results here. The first one we're going to show is the SMB 9-piece double-aught buck at 5 yards. Really nice grouping here, nice and tight. It is a little bit high, and you're actually going to see with the first few rounds we were shooting, the patterns ended up being a little high. So we did have to make some adjustments. I did have to shoot and to get my point of impact better, but these first few groupings are a little high. Again, we're just looking at the patterns today and would they fit within this big circle. So I mean, you're going to see some patterns way up here, but again, we're looking at the size of the spread. So at 5 yards, did really nice. That's actually a really good pattern, about the size of a fist there. So we'll get all 9 pellets right on. We then move to the 9-yard range. Again, pretty nice. This one I wish was moved in a hair. If it was more right here, that'd be really good. But still well within the circle if this was more centered on. I mean, it would definitely be in the circle still. You can see, I mean, if you look at the box size, I mean, it covers up almost that whole entire thing. So really good spread at 9 yards. Really impressed by it. We then move to the 13 yards. As you can see, definitely getting a little higher. But even still, I mean, if you take this and move it all the way down, I still think that it's within the circle. It does have this big open spot here. You have this group right here of 3. You have this group right here of 2. If those could have been maybe dispersed a little bit more even within, I think it would have been a better spread. But that, again, could just be the shell. I mean, who knows on that. But when we're looking at the overall size of the spread, I do think it would be in here in the circle at 13 yards. So overall, I was happy with these. Not too bad. We're then going into the SMB 12-piece buckshot here. So is it 5 yards? Again, very tight. Same thing. Definitely your fist covers that up. And you got 12 pellets all hitting right on target here versus the 9. So really impressed with this buckshot. Here it is at 9 yards. And again, really impressed with this at 9 yards. I thought that this is a great spread. Got a clumping right here, maybe a clumping there. Could be out here, but I mean, even still at 9 yards, I mean, that's a very nice spread for 9 yards with 12 pellets. Double-aught buck. Here it is at 13 yards. Again, very good spread. I mean, that is definitely within the circle range. You do have this big open hole again. We keep seeing that a few times. The clumping there of 2 pellets. You got 2 pellets down here. Kind of this whole area over here. If maybe those were spread out a little more even in the middle, would have been really nice. But still, overall, I was actually very impressed with the 12 pellet SMB buckshot. Very impressed with this one. We then go into one which I thought was very good. It is the Rio Royale 9-piece double-aught buck. As you can see, we're starting to move the aiming point down a little bit, but that's tight for a 5-yard spread. That's really small. It's 2 inches. Looks like the wad went through right here. I think that all the pellets were actually out. I think if you counted them up, I mean, you can see they're kind of there, but very tight spread at 5 yards. Really liked it. Then go into the 9-yard range. Again, really liked this at 9 yards. I mean, that's fist size. So at 9 yards, it is definitely still doing its job. All the pellets have been released. Wad coming down here, but at 9 yards, that's what I like to see. Again, still a little high. I know I mentioned that, so we're eventually, I think it was after this one we shot, it did get corrected, but at 9 yards, really like that spread. Here it is at 13 yards. So at 13 yards, it kind of did something funny. Again, it's high, I know, but it kind of spreads out horizontally here. I mean, it's not like the worst thing ever. It's kind of an even spread horizontally. You know, you do kind of hope for that kind of nice, pretty circle spread, but it doesn't always happen. Again, it could just be the round we're firing. You know, I have some more of this, you know, and I would like to shoot this a little bit more. But still, even at 13 yards, if you lower that down to the middle, that is all hitting within that 13 yards. So I was really impressed by this. Felt very easy on the shoulder with that low recoil. Would not be an issue at all to dump, you know, 6, 7, 8 rounds, you know, really, really fast. I mean, it would be very easy to do. Some of these were not that case. So very happy with this. All right, so here we have the regular Federal ammo, just the regular double-aught buck at 5 yards. As you can see, it is super tight with all 9 pellets hitting, I guess I'm right in here. It looks like there's definitely the wad, but very, very tight at 5 yards. We move into at 9 yards, where you can see, again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and looks like maybe 6 hanging on there, but a couple of rounds probably still in the wad, I'm assuming. They're not flyers or anything, so very tight, but I would have liked to see all 9 pellets spread out at 9 yards. Here it is at 13. Again, a very nice tight pattern where, I mean, it's a very tight pattern, but there's only 6 rounds. I'm assuming the others are still stuck in the wad, so again, don't like that. I wish I had the other 3 hitting on target somewhere. Obviously, this is, if you even include the wad, it's still a very tight group. But again, I would prefer to have all 9 pellets be spread by now. We then move into the Federal with the flight control. This is the one everyone's waiting for, right? So I know as everybody sees it, 5 yards. I mean, they are all in the wad. I think this is just part of the little tiny granules that are coming in it. So 5 yards, they're stuck in there. 9 yards, you can see, I believe the wad hits, well, let me see if I can figure this out. I'm not actually 100% sure. Maybe the wad hit right there in the middle, and then you had a little bit of spread with the pellets here. So 9 yards, I mean, that is all, that's 2.5 inches. I mean, it's tiny right there. So again, very, very tight group. Some of them may still be in the wad, but they're starting to spread out just a hair. And at 13 yards, which is a great spread for 13 yards. I mean, if you see this, that's tiny there. That is that's 3 inches maybe that 3.5. And it looks like we have all 9 right there. The wad's hitting up here. It's a good throat shot. So I think that wad goes right through that jugular maybe. But I mean, this is a great spread for 13. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe people can leave some comments. I would prefer this spread at 9 yards, and maybe like this spread at 5 yards, and then maybe just again at 13. I know people really like this ammo. I'm not 100% sure as far as like the benefit to have them all like at that 5 yard distance. I mean, they're all in the wad still, so not 100% sure on that. You know, someone's moving. I mean, it's just tightening it up even more for a miss. But you know, obviously it did what it's supposed to do. This ammo is supposed to keep it nice and tight, and it definitely did that. I've seen videos where people are shooting at 25 yards and the spread's only, you know, this big, you know, at that point. So this ammo does what it is supposed to do, which is keep the pellets nice and tight. So that's that. Go. Okay, so here we have the number 1 buck category. First we have the Winchester. You can see I wrote right here, it kicks hard. It definitely had, you know, because it was not a designated low recoil. Even though the velocity was at here, I mean, there was noticeably different between these and some of the ones that were designated low recoil. Even though the velocity is right around the same range, it definitely felt much harder to shoot. But not a bad spread for 5. I mean, it's not ideal. It's pretty big, but it's definitely all within. You know, it's a nice even spread. And the wad comes through. I think there's 2 pellets in there. So, no, I'm pretty happy with that at 5 yards, though. Here is at 9 yards, which this is an awesome spread. As you can see, I mean, it is the right size. I mean, this is perfect at 9 yards. I mean, it's really good. Really impressed by that at 9 yards. So, I mean, there's a tiny little gap there, but I'm nitpicking there. I mean, that's an overall good spread. It's kind of interesting because at 13 yards, it really opened up. That is definitely well bigger than the circle. And then you have this huge gap right here in the middle. And I don't think I'm nitpicking now because you have like 1, 2, 3 pellets hitting within 2 inches of each other. If you take 2 of these rounds and stick them maybe right there and there, I think that this spread is very nice and even at that point. But too big. I want this definitely at 13 yards. I really do want all of them within here. You know, if I ever have to do something at this distance, I want to make sure that all my pellets are going to be hitting what I'm aiming at. So just a little bit too big at 13 yards. Next we have the S&B, again, number 1 buckshot. Again, this is that one with 12 pieces. Not exactly sure why they did that, but very good spread. Looks like I missed one there, so you include that. It's a fist size. You know, you're getting 12 pellets very close together right there. Really like that. It's a good spread. Here it is at 9 yards. Again, overall the size is very good. Has this huge gap there, and again, I don't feel like I'm nitpicking because you have 2 rounds here that are, you know, less than an inch apart and 2 rounds that are touching. You know, I really want these rounds to be an even spread, preferably. Again, it could just be the shell I happen to shoot, but that's a pretty good overall size spread at that 9-yard distance. Here it is at 13. Again, just a little bit bigger than I would prefer. A little bit bigger than I would prefer. It is a nice even spread, except again, got 2 rounds real close here, 2 rounds that are touching there. So if those 2 rounds were more evenly dispersed here in this pattern, it would be a much better pattern. But again, I do think that overall this is too big of a spread at this distance for what I would prefer. We then go into the Remington buckshot. Now again, this is not a low recoil, it's just a regular old Remington number 1 buckshot. And I wrote here, you know, kicks hard. This actually felt harder than all the double-aught buckshot that I shot, and even harder than the Winchester. You know, again, it's one of those rounds that I was able to fire, you know, 3 rounds consecutively pretty fast, but it was kicking hard at that point. You know, I would not want to dump, you know, 7, 8 rounds of this stuff in a row. You know, I know the adrenaline was up, it'd be fine, but when it comes to recoil and everything, I mean, you want to be super comfortable with your gun. You want to be able to practice with your gun. This would not be a shell I'd be able to go out and shoot 50 rounds with on a day just to kind of practice. It would not be that type of shell. But good grouping. Very good grouping here. This is at 5 yards. All the rounds are hitting where they need to be hitting. At 9 yards, again, still very nice spread. It's actually pretty dang tight. I think it's the tightest one of them all at 9 yards. Kind of a little open area there, but that's pretty small. I mean, the overall spread of this is small enough that I don't really mind that hole there. But very, very nice group. And then again, at 13 yards, this definitely would fit within the circle there, so I do like that. Doesn't have too many, maybe a little bit of a gap here. You know, you got 2 together here, 2 together here, 2 together here, 2 here. I mean, so there are some that are really, really close, but overall, this would fit in that circle, which I do like. So that would be acceptable at 13 yards for me. All right, and here we are moving on to the number 4 butt category. Here we have first is the Fiocchi ammo. This is the one that I praised that I really, really wanted to do really well. So let me show you how the results were for it. At 5 yards, love it. That's great. I mean, for number 4, having 27 pellets all in just a hair over your fist, really like that. Really well. Nice even spread. At 9 yards, again, really like this pattern. You can see obviously it's a little up and away, but I mean, if that was centered, that would definitely be within the circle. However, I wish that this was tighter at 9 yards, because at 13 I want this to be the 13-yard spread. So at 9 this is great, but this probably might be as far as I would shoot it at the 9-yard range without it getting a little out of control. Because when you see here we move into the 13 yards, I mean that thing definitely opened up a ton. I mean I can put a box right there and not hit any ammo. I mean this thing opened up a lot, way too much for what I want. Again, if that 9-yard spread was the 13-yard spread, it would be End of story. This is what I would go with. But seeing the spread at 13, it just did not live up to what I was hoping. So I do not think I would be using this. Not bad though. It is an even spread. Can't fault it. Next we have the number 4 Federal Premium. I wrote up here, it did not feel like other low recoils. And what I mean by that is this is a designated low recoil round. It actually is one of the smallest feet per second at 1100, or smallest but slowest. And it kicked kind of like some of the regular rounds did that weren't designated low recoil. So, I like the spreads on them, but it definitely did not feel like some of the other low recoil rounds did. But again, at 5 yards, great spread. We're talking about 30. What is this? This is the one with 34. So you got 34 pellets are somehow all in here. I didn't actually count them up, but it doesn't maybe look like there might be 34. Maybe there could be a few stuck in the wad, but either way, that is a ton of pellets in a very small spread right there. Moving on to the 9 yard. Another great 9 yard spread. That would definitely be within the circle. That's a ton there. I really like it. Very even. So 9 yards for this would be great. And then at 13, again, it's just looking like this number 4 buckshot. When it starts getting out to that 13-yard range, it just starts opening up quite a bit. Again, if this Federal had the number 9 or had the 9-yard spread at this distance, it'd be awesome. But this distance, it's just getting too big for me. There were also, I actually counted these up. There were definitely some that hit kind of over here. So I think that if you moved it over, they would all be on paper. But again, we're talking inches outside of it. I think that spread would be about like this distance here, which is again just too big for what I want it to be. I do want them to be all within this circle. So yeah, we're kind of seeing a consistent pattern with the number 4 buckshot at that 13-yard distance. Moving into the SMB number 4 buckshot. Very nice spread here. Nice and tight, kind of similar. They're all kind of having a very nice spread at that 5 yard. I like that. So that's a good spread at 5. At 9, this thing kind of got a little squirrely on me. Again, don't know if it's just the round, because actually if you want to compare this, if we can somehow compare this side by side to the 13, it's the same exact size. The 13 might actually be a smaller overall spread in terms of like diameter here. This is a long distance from the longest ones versus this one. So it's kind of interesting to see that the 13 yard is even a hair tighter, I would say, than the 9. Again, too much from what I would want. I wish that this would be, again, even if it was centered, it would be close. It's not the worst ever. But at 9 yards, that is the worst. That's not something I want to see. Again, that could just be the round. If I had shot another one at that distance, maybe it would have been maybe a lot tighter. But I do think it's kind of interesting that at 9 and 13, the spread is not much different. A little bit different shape, but I would say overall, very similar. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick some double-aught buck, some number 1 buck, and then number 4 buck, and we'll do a head-to-head as far as my favorites in each of these size categories. Okay, here we go. We have the top ammo from each category. So from the double-aught buck category, we're going with the Fiocchi. And we are also going with the Rio Royale. For the number 1, I'm going with the Remington. And for the number 4, we're going with the Federal. Okay, so here let me show you exactly the spreads on each of them. This is all the 13-yard targets for each of them. The reason we did that is all the number 9 targets, 9-yard targets were in the circle. And all the number 5-yard, the number 5-yard targets were obviously just fine. So this is the distance that I really wanted, that I was concerned about, and so that's why I'm showing all the 13-yard distances. So starting over here at the number 4 buck, I know I mentioned this in the specific review for the Federal, but that is just too big. I will not be using this actually in my home defense shotgun. It's just too big for what I want at that distance. Again, got to throw a little love out to the Fiocchi number 4. I was really having high hopes, and it just did not do what I wanted it to do, so it is out. Going into the number 1, this is actually a really good spread at 13. I like it, but if you remember, man, this thing it kicked hard. I'm not one to say that just because I'm not used to shooting a shotgun, but
I mean, if my wife ever had to use the gun or something like that, or I mean, it's too much. You know, I would not be comfortable, you know, going through a full tube magazine of 7 rounds, you know, quickly through this thing. I mean, it was just too much for that. Again, I know if there was ever something happen, heaven forbid, adrenaline kicks in. I get it. But again, if my wife ever had to shoot it or something, it's just not going to be an option for us. So that brings me back to the double aught buck, which is actually surprising. I wasn't actually planning on going with double aught buck for my home defense option. I was really hoping for a number 4 or maybe even a number 1. But the spreads don't lie, and more important than anything else is I want to make sure that the pellets are hitting where they're supposed to be hitting. You know, really nice spread at the 13. Obviously, if it was moved over, it would be in the circle with the Fiocchi. But this Rio Royale actually is, I think, my number 1 choice for now. I actually have some extra Rio Royale, and I do have, you know, this was a box of 10, which is also nice. So I'm going to actually maybe do a little more pattern testing between these two, see if I can dial in, see if I can get some more consistent patterning and see which one's the best. But as of right now, I think I'm actually going to go with the Rio Royale. It does have that high brass on it, which isn't that big of a deal to me. It does make it easier for reloads. The Fiocchi definitely is not out of the option. Both of these were very soft shooters on the shoulder. Both of them patterned really nicely at all distances. So I think I am going to do a few more testing between these two, but as of right now, it looks like one of these two is what it's going to be for me in my home defense shotgun. So hope you enjoyed the video. Leave some comments and let us know what you think. Thanks.